To induct our fourth and final honoree, actually three fourths honorees, it's my pleasure to introduce the president of Ursa Space, who serves as chair of SSPI's board of directors and is a previous 20 under 35 honoree who won our coveted Promise Award in 2012. Nicole Robinson.
Thank you so much. And as Robert mentioned, our final honoree is actually three people who wanted to be recognized together, and you'll see why. They met while working at NASA. Like other ambitious California residents, they decided to start a company in 2010. They called it Cosmogia, and it aimed to do something that had never been done before, to take high-resolution pictures of the Earth from space every day to make changes visible, accessible, and actionable. The changes they most cared about were to our climate. Initial fundraising allowed them to build and launch two demonstration CubeSats they called Doves. Instead of contracting out the manufacturing, they built the Doves themselves in a classic California garage. Another round of funding allowed them to announce plans for a 28 satellite constellation called Flock 1, which was launched from the International Space Station in 2014, just 4 years after their founding. Each Dove spent a relatively short time on orbit due to an atmospheric drag, but the low cost of manufacturing and rideshare launches let them produce new generations at a rapid clip. That quickly improved their capabilities and reliability as well. More flocks followed, including a record-breaking launch of 88 satellites. Overall, they launched 500 Doves into orbit, of which 200 are currently active. Like successful entrepreneurs everywhere, they weren't afraid to pivot when opportunities arose. Raising more millions, they acquired the 5-satellite Rapid Eye constellation and then the SkySat constellation from Google, which they have grown to a total of 21 spacecraft. Combined with a fleet of Doves, they have realized their founding dream of imaging the entire planet daily, a revisit rate never before achieved. The imagery and data the satellites produce is used to monitor farmers' fields, manage crops, and improve yields. It helps defense and intelligence agencies understand events, anticipate their impact, and respond effectively. Governments use it to map land use, manage resources, and monitor urbanization. As our climate changes, it guides decision makers in responding to drought, wildfire, flooding, and climate-induced migration. The company's immense archive of images also provides a global window into the past to illuminate the present and help predict the future. Their remarkable success in less than a decade has helped inspire explosive growth in new Earth observation technologies, as well as space data analytics and new companies. Each successful innovation is adding to our understanding of the planet and better equips humanity for an uncertain future. For adding measurability to our understanding of the planet and better equipping us to preserve it, SSPI is proud to induct into the Space and Satellite Hall of Fame the co-founders of Planet, Dr. William Marshall, Robert Schingler, and Dr. Christopher Boshuizen.
First, I wanted to obviously thank Nicole for that very warm introduction, and Robert and the team at SSPI for the award. It's absolutely amazing what this industry has accomplished, and the vibrancy of the activity happening here is amazing. So it's quite a privilege for us, the three of us, to be here today with such esteemed company. In particular, I would like to congratulate Professor Robert Twiggs for his nomination as well. The work that he did, along with his co-creator of the CubeSat, Jordi Puig-Solari, was absolutely essential. And in that sense, we stood on the shoulder of giants, even though they were 10 by 10 centimeters. CubeSats are mighty giants. And I want to acknowledge Bob for the work that he has done tirelessly to open standards and push this out to the world and to get students involved. Without that, planet would not exist. So yeah, I think one of the things that struck me about your remarks, Bob, was you made the thing small so that people could build it in time, and not through scope creep have the project be too complex and too large and too expensive. So I think the three of us, Will, Robbie, and I, set about trying to cram as much as we could in that box. The challenge being at the time that to build a truly high capable small CubeSat. There were no components that we could buy. I think I recall the smallest and cheapest X-band radio we could buy circa 2010 was about 10 kilograms and cost about $1 million. And so we had to develop, these small things to fit inside the box that you had created, which were, essentially trying to miniaturize all of the components down to the size of credit cards and fit them in. And, it's interesting to try and fit all of these things into such a small space and yet build a truly high-performing CubeSat. And I think without the concept of containerized launch, none of us would be here today. So I do want to thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to my fellow co-founders.
Well, maybe I'll go next then. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to SSPI for this award. It's an honor, and especially to be alongside Bob and Frank and Steve. And I think this really is an exciting time in the space industry. We're in a space renaissance, and we set about with Planet to take care of Spaceship Earth, the big spaceship that we all live on, which needed more information on a more regular basis to take care of it. So we launched these few hundred satellites that, Nicole, you mentioned, to help us to have more regular imagery of the Earth. As Chris said, we were really building off the work of many other people. I think of all of the space industry within NASA and elsewhere. SSTL that pioneered small satellites, Bob Twiggs with the form factor of that we of course used for our doves, and many, many others. And of course, we're just trying to continue that trend. But we have seen quite an uptick in a couple of trends. We've seen rockets reducing costs 4x. We've seen satellite cost performance increase about 1,000x, all within the last sort of 5-10 years, which is a dramatic change for an industry in a short period of time. But perhaps the most exciting aspect of that is less a satellite or rocket change than what is the result, which is a data change. Really, we're seeing a data renaissance. And it's less about the moon or Mars than it is about the Earth. You see, whether it's Starlink or OneWeb producing more data, communications around the planet, or companies like Planet and various others doing Earth imaging, which helps us to get more data about the planet. Either way, it's helping the Earth with the economy, with our challenges on the Earth. Let me just give you a few examples. We're trying to help in the economy, things like agriculture companies. Millions of farmers use our data to improve crop yield. That's 25% of the landmass of the Earth, trying to help them improve crop yields every day to help with food security and so on. And in sustainability, of course, tracking the planet. Nicole, you mentioned this in the introduction, very much the heart of what Planet is trying to do, help us track climate change, help us to monitor changes in deforestation and so on. And then on a third level, we're also helping with peace and security, where we bring transparency to world events and help us to understand what's going on. For example, in the case in Ukraine right now, where the transparency really helps everyone to cohere around a common picture of what's going on. So in all these kinds of ways, and in all the ways that communication satellites are helping with telemedicine and teleeducation and all this sort of stuff, it's less a space revolution than the upshot is a data revolution that helped us here on the Earth. And so anyway, that's how we see Planet fitting in. And once again, thanks to SSPI for this recognition, and we hope onwards and upwards for the whole industry.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Will and Chris. It is a pleasure to be here together for this honor. And Nicole, thanks for the warm introduction. I also would be remiss if I didn't say thank you, Bob. I had the privilege to be an undergraduate at Santa Clara University and worked with this team at Stanford well over 20 years ago, and that's how I was able to design and build first spacecraft. So thank you for your inspiration, your leadership, and continuing to do that all the way through your career. When we were seeing the SSPI's Seeing a Better World, something struck me, which is our space sector really is more like a community, and it's a bit of a calling for the individuals who are part of this global community. And we're deep systems engineers and systems thinkers. It also allows for us to see time in a little bit of a different way. We have more of a planetary perspective, not necessarily which company we're with or which country we were born in, but actually more the interconnectedness of that. And that systems thinking is something that Will and Chris and I brought to everything that we did at Planet. Not just on the engineering side that Chris was talking about, but also on the business side and the governance of our organization. Last year, we turned 10 years old, and we decided to become a public company. And there are many reasons for that, but perhaps the one that really drives us the most is to set our sights for our second decade. By being a public company, it really does allow for us to accelerate what our space community and the Earth observation community in particular can do to help the planet and to accelerate that help for the planet. This level of transparency that Earth observation brings to our society is critically needed, and that transparency gives accountability. Since I've been born, and Will have said this many times, 70% of the species on our planet have gone extinct. Since the first camera was launched on top of a V2 rocket, we've tripled the population on our planet. We're terraforming our planet, and we keep looking at observations in the rearview mirror. What the Earth observation community can do and what Planet can do is allow for that data to be activated, allow for change on the planet to be understood, where we then understand our shared risks and as well as our shared opportunities to see through some of these solutions. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm super proud that we took a first principles systems thinking approach to the second decade as becoming a public benefit corporation. So this level of transparency we take into consideration the effect that this has on our customers, on all stakeholders and the general public. So we can bring about in the most responsible way, activating this level of transparency for us to become better stewards of the planet. And this is the most important decade for climate action. And our community within the space sector can play an extremely vital role to get us on a common operating picture so that we can then better take care of our home planet and become planetary stewards. So thank you all for the recognition and the honor. I also do want to take a shout out, similar to what was said before. It's not just the three of us. Planet is now 750 people strong. I'm also super proud that SSPI has acknowledged 3 Planeteers for the 20 under 35 cohort. So thanks again for all that you do for bringing our community together.